guess the earthquake busted the conduit and it's flooded the bottom of the shaft.
Damn, that's scary. I mean, I've seen this movie, what, gosh, 4 times, 70mm sensurround. I guess I'm, you know, because it's just like the poster says. Attention. The film Earthquake has been given Certificate A. The motion picture will be shown in new style in new multi-dimension sensurround. You'll feel as well as see, hear realistic effects such as might be experienced in an actual earthquake. Some people, whatever their age, are particularly sensitive to sound extremes. These people may find the earthquake sequences disturbing. Ooh.
I found the trouble. I guess the earthquake busted the conduit and it's flooded the bottom of the shaft.
This is just over the screen channels. Damn. Holy shit balls. Yeah, that was just given 105 just over the screen channels LCR. Not using the 5 screen. And I haven't even got the the subs on, or the LFE track, or the sensurround, but just the screen channel, which I retuned specifically for this morning. I'm still doing some tests, because like I say, there's no actual the speakers not actually exist, so to speak, anymore. Certain maybe other equipment might be around, but it's kind of rare, very hard to find. But there is a kind of rumour that there might be some sensurround speakers still hidden downtown. That's the rumour, so take it with a pinch of salt. Pinch of sensurround. Yeah, it can be very unnerving. It can be very unnerving, this movie. Most people, you know, might think, nah, it's not as good bass as what on San Andreas with that rock actor and in Atmos. Oh gosh, I think the two things that set this movie and San Andreas apart is this uses effects and dialogue, screaming sounds. It's probably what makes it disturbing, because you don't hear music score blaring away. Like when I thought, I bet that San Andreas is going to have music blaring away when they got the earthquake thing going on and off in scenes and cutting from one scene to another, and then kind of I don't know, it kind of, I don't know, it took me out of the Atmos storytelling, if you know what I mean. This beats San Andreas hands down. Way better. But not many people would have seen or could remember it at the cinema in sensurround. Gosh, I just still get, I don't know, I still get kind of flashback, sort of, I don't know, bass syndrome. I'm just trying to focus, most of these prints that played in US would have been 35. Some might be mostly mono or stereo with sensurround trigger on the print. So you have a pilot tone as a tone or pulse. It's kind of like when you look at, say, if anyone's familiar with looking at, say, a 35mm print and seen a DTS time code on the print. Sort of similar in that way, where it just has a series of tone or signal pulse, and it's just a pilot tone, kind of like what an AVR is today, with a 12-volt trigger that turns, say, like if you got some home cinemas have these active sub bass things. I use the proper real deal sort of thing. So you just have something that just triggers, or it can trigger a regular amplifier, that is, and it just triggers and turns it on. You know, because most people are just too bone-eyed or lazy to turn the sub-bass speaker off on the active, on the blimmin', you know, just go behind it and turn the switch off. They make a big deal out of it, thinking, oh, it's active. But you're just still using equipment, idling away, using up voltage, and, you know, go figure. After when I turn my system off, I completely turn everything off after I'm not using it. I tell you, some of the bass sequences and low end and the LFE, like during this scene, there's no sensurround playing during the elevator. You know, the blood kind of animated on the screen, so to speak, kind of like a 3D effect. Kind of tells you it wasn't very good to go in an elevator. You know, and the LFE or the sensurround track's back on, so if I would go back. So bass be on the LCR here. I've got the surround channel on mute on the STDS, the LFE track or sensurround. All that low end is up on here. God damn. Oh. Feel some of that coming up and onto my chest, but obviously I'm going to have my levels set a little bit different, you know, because I can just sense some of the screen channel bass, and it is unnerving. It is very unnerving. To anyone else, they'll be thinking, yeah, that's not the best I've heard, but if you've not experienced it, period, in sensurround at a cinema, you probably have got no idea because the bass on it is way bigger than, I tell you, when I can see other movies like, the last movie I saw in a Dolby Atmos cinema, and it was near substandard rubbish Dolby Labs Atmos sound, and I'm thinking, is that the best this cinema can do? It really did kind of, in a way, it offended me that their sound system, being a JBL, and I'm kind of thinking it's very disappointing, because I've heard THX with JBL and it was like, I don't know, kind of on par with sensurround, or if not a little bit better at the Empire Leicester Square. Damn scary still, feeling it, and directional bass as well. So, you know, if you're not seen this, you know, and I only heard from other people giving their I don't know, recall of it, I guess, because the whole damn sequence lasts 10 minutes. You know, like I say, it's unnerving, and the way the kind of bass, the kind of sensed in the ABC downtown screen 1, it had this sort of forward backward sort of strange sort of, I couldn't guess what it was back then, because I wasn't into sound. I like drawing, I like art, but I enjoyed the movie, I suppose, because I saw it 4 times. which is a lot more than I would say I would see some Disney rubbish, woke Mary Sue Star Wars, if you know what I mean, which only plays, what, a few weeks and then it's gone and forgotten about, thank goodness. But this movie, good gosh, it played for months on end. Kind of like what Star Wars did in 1977-78 in the UK. Played months on end. You get a Mary Sue Star Wars Disney rubbish, couple of weeks, and then it's gone and forgotten about, thank goodness. You know, some of the practical effects in this movie are pretty good, I think. They still hold up, they're not CGI, they're model work, practical on-set sort of things, matte paintings, even some of the matte paintings that I'm looking at sometimes, and people running around in areas where they would leave an area for where all the set piecing is, and then the painting goes in all around. Wow, that still kind of wows me to sort of like think this was very well crafted, and you know, all these houses collapsing, good gosh, you know, well, they're not going to stand up now, are they? They're what, timber and plasterboard, crying out loud. They're not going to stand up now, are that? Because the fictitious earthquake depicted in the movie is somewhere of a magnitude of 10, in the order of playing like 10 minutes or so. Devastation, unimaginable devastation. And the way the music cuts in after the main earthquake. Should I put the feed on? I kind of just sense the sub bass underneath the screen bass, so it's not overwhelming. Wow.
Turn off the gas.
The way that score cuts in then. Wow. And you're supposed to also feel the score as well. You're supposed to feel all the bass kicks in the percussion, in some of the bass beat notes on the instrument. Any of the instruments, you're supposed to like feel that sort of thing. Of course, you gotta have good speakers across the LCR. You gotta have matched speakers. They gotta be, if not cinema ones. Because today, you know, like I say, the actual ones just don't exist anymore. You could build them, rebuild them from plans. That's not a big deal. But I'm surprised. You know, you can get many speakers that were mass produced from other, you know, manufacturers, anything, you know, vintage, and be able to, you know, obtain it today. I mean, there was about 400 cinemas, I believe, that were sensurround worldwide, meaning they would have made batches of the ones for the sub-bass reproduction, and they would have made bundles of the sensurround units. I'm not sure how many. They would have made quite a lot of them. So there'll be, not sure how many mod 2 or mod 3 ones they made, because there were 2 versions of that were installed in the cinema that were very small units. I mean, seeing the pictures, and I've seen quite a few pictures, particularly where they're opened up and show the cards that go inside, which are also almost similar to cards that go in a CP processor. I think it's about half the size of this. It's about half the size of a 19-inch, and it's probably about it's probably from this Dolby MPU down to this accessory unit. It's probably about that high. It's probably about that high, I guess. If not just about maybe about 1U frame less. But it's a very small unit. There's a lot of cards that go in it that for sensing the pilot tone, to generate in the sensurround. Call it gimmick if you want. I think Dolby Atmos is more of a bloody gimmick with its rubbish today, because you think, oh, we're going to be immersed in the storytelling now, are we? When most of the time it's just a load of rubbish on the overhead. I mean, it's used for a couple of seconds or a few minutes out of a whole 2-hour running time. Huh? What? I can go and listen to real sound out. If not, make real sound in the room. That's better than the blimmin' Atmos encode, or Atmos mixing, encode, decoding to the overhead surround, if you know what I mean. Because they're not called Atmos speakers. They're called speakers that are used for overhead surround. Not a lot of people know that, and yet a lot of people think it's, oh, I got an Atmos speaker. It says so on the box. Yeah, that's because they're trying to get you to sucker like a shill, so you'll be buying it gullibly. Really. Unbelievable. Never heard anything like it. So, also, how it was played back. Gosh, I don't know how they would have set everything up back then, because there are a lot of videos today where they're setting it to levels and using sophisticated RTAs today. You know, you could use most digital RTAs, DS to computer download, REM, true RTA, anything, to setting it all up. And you know, for those that sort of like remember, yeah, it was kind of like this, so to speak. Yeah, those sort of people could be very useful as consultants, because there's not a whole lot of many other people that can say, yeah, I just remember that it being bloody bass, boom, boom, boom. It was bloody loud, or no, it had a physical emotion where it just suddenly, when the big main earthquake started, it was like, what the heck is this? And just sat in these middle seats in the auditorium of the ABC, called Pullum seats, kind of like a seat, an office seat, very comfortable compared to the regular seats, and just this energy just pressing against my body, going through my body. Yeah, I would need another bass speakers, the same that I got for the front, for the back, but I'm using JBL 4645, 45s and 45C, TCB 4782s in the middle, and that one at the back of the room. So they're characteristic on the bass, and what I got the crossover tuning at on the crossover on the DSP. You know, I'd want to make sure that they're the same, so to speak, so I'm not going to damage anything. The last sensurround movie I saw, because there were several, most of them I just didn't see at the cinema. Some I got on DVD or on Laserdisc because I was just curious of that movie. Midway, Roller Coaster, which I never saw at the cinema, but Roller Coaster is interesting. But Midway doesn't have a what's it track on it, so to speak. Doesn't have on DVD or Blu-ray. I think it's just mono. Battlestar Galactica that I saw in around 1979. That gave me tinnitus, which I'm kind of hearing in my ears at the moment. A kind of hissy sound without the bit of the top, bit of a kind of sort of soundish. That gave me bloody tinnitus. Well, I didn't know. Like, oh wow, and this scene in Earthquake. Where is it? Yeah, all this matte painting down there, and you got people running around this in the distance. Down in this position here. You got people running around down there. See that's the sort of the detail that's pretty good. And some of the other kind of effects, anything to try and create some sort of visual disorientation, like when you kind of see the buildings kind of wobble. Is it just someone pointed it out to me many years ago? That's kind of glass in front of and they're just kind of bending it, so to speak, very carefully, and it creates this kind of visually disorientation, particularly when it was with the sensurround. Not sure. Oh yeah, these people running around down there again. There's more, wow, little details like that, pretty cool. Battlestar, yeah, gave me bloody tinnitus. I didn't know it until night time, because during the day other sounds were probably masking it, so I probably didn't aware until it was night time and it was quiet, and I heard this hissing sound. I was kind of thinking, what is that I'm hearing? I'm looking around the room thinking, where's this sound coming from? I didn't know it was inner ear because the threshold of the sensurround on Battlestar must have gone over my hearing threshold level, and bam. Not to mention other sound in the movie, and it was only a mono. I think Battlestar, it was only a mono one, or kind of like a 1x1.1, so to speak, in a way, or mono with sensurround, whereas Earthquake was 76 track, stereophonic. Battlestar just had the more intense usage of the sensurround, so that's probably how I got my tinnitus, with more or less the same running time as Earthquake. It was only just a lot more intense in Battlestar. So when you got levels, they say in the sensurround manual, which I actually read the first page of a sensurround manual, I was going to bid for the damn thing, but someone or I forgot about the bidding, and someone won the manual. Otherwise, I would have snapped that manual up. But it said more or less on the first page that the level of sensurround shouldn't cause any hearing damage. That's bullshit. Because there were some rumours saying it was at about 130 dB rather than 120. So if I would have had one of these back then, if I was, knew about these, I would have taken one of these and thought, damn, that's getting a bit too, and thinking I should be taking caution and putting my fingers, on my ears. I don't have to have earplugs. It wasn't like that sort of thing. It wasn't like mid high frequency range that I hear in some cinemas, substandard Dolby Atmos cinemas today, where it's just blaring bloody loud, deafening on the mid and high frequency. That's where our hearing's sensitive at. But you can have certain bass frequencies or mid bass frequencies that might be very high in level. You sometimes only have to play sine wave tones, and then you notice, gosh, that sine wave tone is kind of like, and you're not going to play it any loud unless you put some earplugs in and watching it on your SBL meter or your Room EQ Wizard, True RTA, whatever. I know when it's just too much and I just back it on down or put my earplugs in. Particularly when going up on very high frequencies, if I had to do a specific tuning. So the soundtrack with the play, and there are other high frequency sound sci-fi effects or whatever, and they're a little bit below 8 kilohertz, and I hear that tone, and then there's one above around about 10,000 kilohertz, and it's like a very high pitch, like a pinching sound on my ear, kind of like it's go, whoa, wow, but yeah. Whoa, that was a bit of sensurround. That was, kind of dropped the phone. Got sub bass syndrome. But when I saw, like, after Earthquake, Battle Stars, and that, and I didn't know much to, I mean, before all that, cinema sounded just like regular, bass and such. It just sounded regular. And then getting into sound in the 1980s, 86, 87, Platoon down at what was the Gaumont screen number 2 downstairs. That kind of awoken my hearing. I was not hearing the sound. I was listening. I was acknowledging, positioning, because that's what mixers will be doing. They'll be aware, they'll be knowing what to put down, how they're putting it down, and what to try to achieve with producer, director, whatever, sound editors and that, and get this, when it's amplified at the levels where it's played in cinemas, where, it's not this, it would totally, if you took all that sound that's being played back, reproduced in the auditorium, and just put it through a single speaker on a TV, it would just get obliterated. Not that it would, but it's like saying the level, and then the level that a TV speaker could do typically back then would be very limited, and it wasn't until I heard THX sound system at the Empire, and I thought, gosh, this is almost like sensurround, only better. And so, when I hear other cinemas and they got their Atmos, or any other cinema that maybe substandard Dolby, I've got a THX cinema, so I've got the actual THX in the kitchen, the crossover system, and then of course the speakers, amplifiers, no, but the amplifiers Class D, they're sufficient. But I wouldn't mind the JBLs, 6290s, but they're just too damn large, and they would take up a lot of rack space. And how many I would need, I don't know. The scene again with the down here in the lower corner. You've got people moving around down there. So Yeah. And in other ways, I'm kind of pissed off with maybe the installers that did sensurround, maybe the cinema, pissed off with the cinema, pissed off with Universal Pictures, pissed off with the re-recording mixers that did it. That gave me bloody tinnitus, because I would expect to get tinnitus at a nightclub or a disco. I would expect to get it there, but wasn't thinking, you can get that out of the cinema. I mean, otherwise, if I just put my fingers, just done that for just a few moments during a period of a scene on a movie, I could have sort of but once the level goes over your threshold, that's it. I can't get any more worse than what I've already got. Depending on the attack of the SPL against the threshold. Some people say it's in your head. Of course it's because my mind is receiving the signals. But when there's sometimes something that's triggered through a sound, it could be very soft, it could be loud, mild, whatever, today. That's doing something to my actual ears itself, the inside the inner ear. It's doing something to that to stimulate some sort of imbalance, kind of like a capacitor. A capacitor is like, say, maybe they come in many sizes. Sometimes they need replacing, because they tend to generate kind of series of random noises. Could be a hum, could be a buzzing, any sort of series of random noises, and it gets transmit through the system, and then you will hear it out the speakers. You could see you put it on an RTA, and then you'd be able to see the actual frequencies that are all randomly being, and think, well, that capacitor needs replacing. You can't do it with your ear. You can't do it. I had to learn to bite my tongue and bear as much as I can with it. Most other people can't. They end up, they end up, they end up trying to commit suicide, because they're not interested in dealing with it. At times it does get to me, and I just can punch the wall. But if I start doing that, I'll just get, my hand will be bleeding. Because all I'm trying to do by that is put pain in my hand, and that's not good. The only thing you can do when you got tinnitus, the only thing you can simply do is just go to bed. Count sheep, as many as you can, alright? And then you'll get into a sleep mode, and then once you're in a sleep mode pattern, that's when you're not going to notice it. Trust me, you won't notice it. Then when you wake up, do your level 1 diagnostics, and then you think, have I still got it? You think, oh god, it's still there. But it's a little bit less in level. Mine at the moment is kind of increased a little bit. Sometimes it's maybe, say, very, I don't notice it. It's not there, but on some days it's this sort of level, hissing. It's kind of like this level at the moment, which is hard to put into words, like how many. So if you had 0 dB down at the noise floor, so to speak, or something, or you got SPL meters, and go down to say 0 and then 10 dB, 20, 30 dB, etc. I would say it's probably somewhere maybe 35, 40 dB hissing at a narrow band frequency. if I kind of sometimes make a and put my hands around my mouth and ear and make natural sound rather than using generated pink noise or white noise centered on around a specific frequency, or maybe even using a series of sine wave tones at very low level. Those sort of things are only to sort of like try and pinpoint roughly where it's at. Whereas many years ago, well, they didn't have any idea where to pinpoint the tinnitus at. And then other things come along and they say, we can use this now to pinpoint roughly. So you've got to put headphones on, it's got to be in a quiet room, and you play some white or pink noise, narrow band, and move the dial or the frequency up roughly until you kind of think, it's almost around there. And it gives you a broad idea roughly. But like I say, most people just don't want to know. They want a cure. Yeah, sure. A toothache can be dealt with. I would rather trade it for a toothache, but I don't have teeth. I lost my teeth. I've got dentures now, so that's just one of those unfortunate things in life. It's hard to say to trade tinnitus for a toothache because it's only the root. I can't generate a toothache anymore because I've got no root. Once that's extracted, that's it. The toothache pain goes away after about almost instantly, because it's like a toothache is kind of like in a way, thinking about it, it's like a capacitor. Electrical signals going in, plus and minus, and it's got all this noise, and it needs to be extract the capacitor by desoldering and put a new capacitor in, solder it up, test it. It's perfect. It's too bad that can't be done with the the same goes for tinnitus. It can't, in a space, so to speak, technology, and kind of repair it, because inside the ear there are these little hairs, and those react to sound frequencies, and that's sent to our mind, which is, in a way, our ears is like a microphone, goes to an audio mixer, goes to an RTA analyzer. If I suppose you could put a microphone down the ear canal, very quiet, in an anechoic chamber, I guess that's as quiet as it would get. You could put a microphone right down there. I don't think it would even register the tinnitus, because it's a little bit more further down in where it's where it's happening, and then the signals get transmit to our, and then we say, but it's bullshit nonsense if someone says, oh, it's in your mind. I try focusing sometimes, like close my eyes and look like as if I'm looking straight ahead at something, an imaginary object, and just focusing. Just some kind of like, when you go to a toilet and you want to let one, and you can't, and just try and focus that. Does it work? Not really. All I can say is you just have to go to bed and count sheep, and then you'll go into a sleep, and then you won't notice it. Or try. I can try doing that. Kind of. This video is getting long again. Another long video.